Yo, what is up, everyone? My name is Ginger Needham, and today we're going to just kind of go through keys from both sides of front of house. So I'm going to show you my approach to playing keys live at church and also how I process those keys at front of house. Something to know about keys, and this really goes for all instruments, but because I'm a keys player, it really matters to me. Keys is something that is, if it's not right hitting the console, it's not going to sound good. So it kind of matters on both sides. The keys player needs to be doing their job of bringing the right textures, the right tones. That way, at front of house, we can process things correctly. Because if it's not good hitting the console, there's nothing we're going to do to make it amazing. Let's talk about overall approach for keys and kind of the way I see keys fitting into a worship mix. Sort of the idea for me and the way I run keys, having tracks and keys and pads and all those things in the same session is, I feel like it's my responsibility and my role to kind of glue the live band to the tracks. So whether that is filling in with different key sounds to supplement the tracks and relying on less track support, or relying on more track support and letting tracks take over and dialing back my key sounds, or using pads, using synths in moments in between songs or when we're in flow moments to kind of fill in the space that tracks would have if we were on tracks at the moment. So there's a lot of different layers and things, and obviously a lot of room for creativity when it comes to playing keys and having textures and everything. So let's just jump right in to show you my controller. I feel like that's the best way to kind of outline all the different sounds and all the different sort of colors I have in my palette, so to speak. So this is the Novation Launch Control XL. They've recently came out with a new version of this, but I don't know. I just really, really like this one. I love the way the faders feel. I haven't felt the new one, but I've just got all my labels on it, and I don't know. I'm going to be using this one for a long time. This layout is very based on David Funk's layout. He's with Bethel Music. So it's very similar to his layout, but I've kind of made some changes and tweaks. So yeah, all my key sounds are running through Ableton Live, and all my tracks are running through Ableton Live. This main template is built off Nick Stailey's template. You can find that at Production Online. I highly recommend you get it. Mine is very kind of different now, and I've made a lot of changes to kind of fit my sound and how I like to approach things. But at the core, it's very much based on Nick Stailey's template, so I could not recommend it enough to get that template. All right, so let's talk about the overall layout. Essentially here, we have different channel strips for all my layers. So this is the piano volume, the filter or the cutoff for the pianos. Then we have the pads. So I have two categories of pads. I have warm pads or mellow pads, and then that's the volume for those. This is the filter, okay? And then I have my bright pads, volume, filter. We'll talk about effects in a minute. This is where things kind of get a little different for me from what a lot of people run. I kind of put all of my stackable pianos, weird sounding pianos, synths, all of that in one category, in one bus, one chain selector, and I just call it stacks. So pianos and stacks run to the same output at front of house. That's the piano line. And then the pads run to a separate output. And we'll talk about that when we get to the mixing side, how important that is, because attack really matters when it comes to piano, because piano is a percussive instrument. So we want to treat the compression settings differently on pads than piano. So that's why we split those up. Then over here, we have our tonic texture, pad generator, whatever. There's a million names for it. I feel like these are a bit overused in the worship space, but they serve a great role when it's needed, especially in like altar calls, flows, things like that. So that's the volume for the tonic texture, filter. I also have reverb for it. And we'll talk about what reverb that is later. Then we go over here to tracks. Yes, with an X. This is the volume for the tracks. And essentially, it's not really the volume. As you can see on my screen, it is the volume for the tracks bus, but it's also mapped to every individual track channel as well. Then we have a filter. Then we have reverb, which I don't use all that much, but let's say we're in a big moment where I need to bring tracks back in suddenly to a big part where we're off tracks and then we hop into a big chorus or whatever. It's really good to just throw the reverb all the way up, and then when the tracks come in, they're kind of washed out, and it kind of helps me blend the tracks back in. Again, I don't use it a lot, but it's nice to have when I need it. And then up here is my click volume. I keep click on a volume. I usually keep it around there, 75% or so, 60% right there. I keep it, if we're getting a little off, I'll kind of bump it a bit. And then, in those down moments where it's just me playing and I know I'm on the click, but I don't really need it super, super loud, and I want to kind of give it, especially the drummer's ears, a break, I'll just turn it down. Okay. Over here on the right, I have scene up and down, play, stop tracks, cues on and off, click on and off. Okay. All right, let's talk about these sounds. So piano sections. I have all these buttons here are different presets of sounds that I use. I have more than the presets I have actually mapped, but these are my go-tos. I want to be able to hit these at any moment in the set and just go to that sound. That's why I keep these here. And I'm always kind of rotating different ones in and out depending on the set. If I know I'm going to use an upright a lot that day, I'll map it to a button. But most of the time, these are my default sounds, basically. My first piano is the Ian McIntosh real piano. I worked really hard to get this one. It's very hard to find his presets these days because his website is not live. And Reason, this is a Reason patch. Reason does not sell the sample libraries for this anymore. So, yeah, it was very hard to track down, but we have it. This is the real piano, and I'll show it to you without verb. I love it. It's super dark and mid-forward and compressed and smashed, and I just love it. I love the way it sits in a mix. And it's very dynamic, so if you play soft, it's dark, but in those moments, you can really dig in. Yeah, I really like it. This specific piano came built in with a verb that Ian dialed in, and I loved the verb so much I took the verb off that and loaded Reason as an effect rack in my effects. That way, my piano verb for all pianos is that Reason piano. Here's what it sounds like. I just love it. It's just my favorite piano of all time. And then moving on. So this next piano is the Keyscape C70, C7 Grand, whatever. I think this is more towards the cinematic patch than the compressed patch. This one's kind of a mix between several of the guys I follow, kind of a mix between all of their different parameters and settings. I'm kind of just trying to find something that is natural sounding, because the real piano, my first one, is so smashed and processed. I wanted something more straightforward, and if there's a ballad song where there's a grand piano feature, I want it to sound like a grand piano. So that was kind of my approach to making this patch, but it honestly is just a basic grand piano. It's cool. Nothing crazy. It's just a good grand. All right, this third patch is the double felt piano from Keyscape. I absolutely love this piano, and I'll show you a little trick I found to make it sound even better. But this is what it sounds like in my template. Man, I just really like that piano. It just feels so wide and just it's got this like felty. It's like my go-to altar call piano. Let's jump over here to my computer and I'll show you what I did to it. So this is the actual double felt setting. I think this is just one of the defaults, basically, maybe with a few slight tweaks. And it sounded great, but it wasn't giving that super kind of wide and like mid-scooped feel I was going for. You'll notice that this is the exact opposite of the real piano, where the real piano is, aggressive and mid-forward and, sort of compressed. This one is very open, not much mids, a lot of top end, a lot of texture. So I like to have very different stuff. That way I can complement the band in different moments, right? So here's the money to the double felt right here. This is a preset built into FabFilter 4 or Pro Q4 by FabFilter, and it's literally one of the piano set presets. It's literally called Keyscape Felt for Mix, literally designed for this. And I threw it on there, and I just fell in love with it. And some people were like, "Dude, why are you running FabFilter live?" And I don't care. I don't care if it's like not normal to run this plugin live. I just love the way it sounds, and my approach for everything is if it sounds good in the studio, I want to try my best to replicate it live, and that's kind of the idea here. I don't even know what this curve is doing. I know there's a lot of mid-side components here where it's compressing the mids different than it is, not the mids, the center different than the sides. So it really gives a lot of width to it. A couple other pianos I have that aren't on here. This is the Lab Soft piano. It's free. That's the Give It All piano. I really like that one just because it has so much character, so much texture. I don't know. It's just got those little imperfections you can hear when they were sampling it. I just think it's really cool. A lot of character. This next one is really, really cool. It's kind of a one-trick pony, and I don't really get to use it a whole lot. But when I do use it, I absolutely love it, and I feel like it's a kind of a head turner as far as like as a sound. This is called the Delay Wohrle. This is a Nick Stailey patch that came on this template. It's basically just a Wohrle that's super delayed out, and it's just got a lot of effects on it, and it's super cool. Again, not the most useful thing, but when it fits, it is just awesome. I love that sound. And then also in this, the way I kind of run things, I like to stack some pianos sometimes. You got to be really careful when you're stacking piano because phase is a huge thing. So you got to make sure things are in phase and it's the right two pianos that go together. But I will stack that reel with an upright, and it sounds like this. Yeah. All right. Let's go over piano effects that I have. So right here, I have reverb, like I mentioned. This is a quarter note delay. It's got some auto pan on it. Then I have a dotted eighth delay. Then I have distortion. Makes more sense on a lead line than this felt. I think this right here is actually decapitator. I don't have my waves licenses on this machine, so that's Decapitator. When I do have waves, my favorite piano distortion is actually Manny Marroquin, but this is a great distortion too, Decapitator. It's a classic. Then I have chorus. This is the tall free chorus, TAL chorus. Really cool when it fits the mix. All right, now my favorite piano effect. This is Crystallizer, which is another Sound Toys plugin. This is essentially like a reverse delay, and it just really hits, especially for down moments. Super cool. I overuse that. And then I have a MIDI octave that I think it starts at this A note. And so anything I play over this A note gets octaved automatically. It's really useful when you're doing things like instead of really great for like fast arpeggios and stuff that you want to have lift. All right, so that's pianos. Let's move on to pads. I won't go through all of my pads because I have so many of them. I'll just give you a couple of my favorites. So this first one here is called the Dark Blossom. It's a Nick Stailey patch. I like it because it doesn't have a lot of attack. It's not too warm, but it really sits. Something I find about most people when they run a lot of pads and a lot of warm pads is they're so muddy, they're so thick, and they sound great, you know, in your headphones when you're sitting at home by yourself, like creating this whole worship space. But when you're with a band, you have a bass player, you have two guitar players, you have a drummer. They totally get in the way. And there is a reason why every mixing engineer hates pads. So what I try to do as a mixing engineer and as a keys player is create pads and use pads that add character to the mix, add texture to the mix, but don't get in the way of any frequencies. You want to make your front of house engineer want to push your pads and not turn them down to make the mix better. So that is the Dark Blossom. My other one is a Reason pad from Ian McIntosh. It's called the Sweeps pad. This is the GOAT. This is my favorite pad right now. Do you hear how much like character there is like up in the top register right there? To me, that just makes it awesome. So for the mellow pads, I have a filter and reverb. Onto the bright pads. This first one is called the Buzzy pad. Again, one of those Ian McIntosh Reason ones. I have reverb on that, which is Valhalla. Again, the Reason reverb on the pianos, but Valhalla on the pads. And then for the bright pads, I have a sequencer. And I have a sidechain. And yes, you can stack them, and it's awesome. Especially on like a cool like crash out kind of breakdown, you can really. Let's go on to stacks. I have several of them. One of the main ones is the CP70, which is kind of a traditionally mono, but this one's stereo instrument. It's just got this super 80s character to it, a lot of chorus, a lot of verb built into it, and it's great for like the song I Need You. Really like that one. And then I'll skip the second one because that's the main one. This one's called Celest. This one is from Christopher Wohrle. This is on one of his presets. And it's super cool to stack with like a piano and a down moment. It's really cool. It's just cool. And then this is called the Chorus Brass. I think it's another Nick Stailey one. Could be wrong. Or of a synth. Pretty cool. Now, this one, the second one, is called Mrs. Mills. Now, there is a ton of Mrs. Mills patches out there. You'll probably see them in a ton of main stage libraries, a ton of Logic libraries. I've used one in Reason. I've used one in Keyscape. But my favorite Mrs. Mills patch is the Spitfire one. And it's literally like a $20, $30 plugin, and it's my favorite Mrs. Mills. The idea is it's a Abbey Road Studios kind of thing. It's like this famous piano in Abbey Road Studios in London. Essentially, there's no low end to this specific piano there, and a bunch of people have sampled it, and it's just like this famous piano now. The reason why I like this one is I feel like the attack sits perfectly with my pianos. So when I stack them, I feel like it becomes one cohesive sound. I feel like some of the other Mrs. Mills, they sounded really, really good by themselves, but when I stacked them with the pianos, I feel like the attacks would come in at different times. I feel like the piano would be slightly ahead, or the Mrs. Mills would be slightly ahead on others. So this one I found just really sits well and creates a very good focus of attack, especially on those big octave lines. I'll show you what that sounds like. Yeah, pretty awesome. And I have distortion on that channel as well. Quick thing about the texture generator. This is basically the default one that Nick Stailey made. It's very straightforward. Essentially, you just hit a key, turn the filter up, and it gets you going. Sounds really good. This is kind of my approach for altar call. I'll kind of get like that texture going right there. A little felt. Bring in nice warm pad. Maybe some reverse. All right, let's run a couple songs and let you see my patches in context.